Hi guys, welcome to topic 5. In this topic we're going to be developing a very basic composition. So till here I guess all of y'all must have completed by now. So let's go ahead and select all these layers one by one and just delete them off by pressing the delete button. You can even use the below button over here right on the corner, which is basically the trash can button or the delete layer button as such to delete it off. So we'll have a blank background. Now we're going to build a very basic composition and we're going to learn a couple of things in this as well. Alright. So first thing I'm going to do is right click and select the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to shift the color from here to gray. I'll shift the below color from here to blue. Right, something is like this. Now I'll go ahead and create a box over here, guys. Now remember again, this one's subtraction, so I'll change this to addition always. Create a new layer. And I'll press Alt backspace to fill in the gray color. And I can press Ctrl D to deselect. Next thing I'll do is I'll make another box like this. And I'll again create a new layer. And I'll now press Ctrl backspace to fill in the blue color. And Ctrl D to deselect as such. I can rename the layer. So I'll rename the top layer as water body. So this is basically if we are seeing this entire drawing from above, right? Like a drone view. So we can just understand that this is basically even called as a plan, right? So I can just go ahead and type over here building as such. And you guys can see how we can actually shift between building. I can put building above and we can have the water body below like this, right? I'll switch on auto select again. Now the next thing I'm going to do is right click and I'm going to select elliptical marquee tool over here, and I'll press shift and I'll create a circle. So I can hold shift to create that circle, and I'll create a new layer and I'll select green color now, and I'll just fill in green color. This would replicate a tree. Alright, and I can move this tree wherever I want by using the move tool. But if I hold Alt, you guys will notice a little change in the cursor also, that there is a double arrow, and if I leave Alt, right, there's going to be a single arrow. Again, if I hold Alt, there's going to be double arrow, and if I leave Alt, there's going to be a single arrow. So holding Alt, we'll have a double arrow. Double arrow when I'm holding Alt basically means if I move, it will copy. Holding Alt, if I use the move command, alright, it will copy like this. And you can see on the side over here, guys, that the layers are continuously increasing by saying layer 1 copy, layer 1 copy. But then now it's going to become a headache for us to rename all this, right? So what I'll do is I'll press Ctrl Alt and Z to go all the way back, and I'll just double click on this layer 1 and I'll rename it, let's say, as tree. Now when I copy this layer, you'll see that it comes out as tree copy 2, tree copy 3. So we know exactly which are the tree layers, and now we can easily go ahead and place them in particular areas like this. Just something like this. Alright, so this is basically how we'll be using our tree copies as well. Now I'd like to talk about another tool set, which is basically from the modify and edit command, guys. I'd like to talk about the brush as well as the erase tool, which is over here the second command, which is called as brush, and the fifth one, which is called as eraser. In between, we can just leave these other colors for now. Let's see what the brush and the eraser do. So for this, I'm going to create a new layer over here, and I'll use the rectangular marquee tool to just build out a space. Let's say something like this. And I'll press B, which is the brush tool, or I can easily click over here as well. Alright. Now when I select the brush tool, guys, on top over here, you'll notice that we have a set of commands. The first one over here is the 500 points, which is the size of the brush, as you guys can see. And if you are not able to see this circle, which is the brush, that means your caps lock is switched on. You can see now I can't see the circle, but when I press caps lock again and switch it off, I can see the circle. So remember that caps on will not let you see the circle, and caps lock off will let you see the circle. Now I can do a drop down, and you can see I can control the size from here. You can see how big or how small I can make it. I can also create the hardness. Now hardness at 0% would make it something like this, like a diffused brush, which we'll see, and hardness at 100% will make it a stiff brush like this. And below over here we have multiple different brushes that we can also use. So let's just talk about these two brushes first. So what does a stiff brush basically do? It will make a straight line like this, and you can see this color is green. That's because we have green over here, and make it black, so you can see how black will replicate over here. If I go ahead and I reduce this to hardness 0, we will basically have a very diffused brush like this. Alright, but we can still color it completely like a normal paint. Now I'll switch the color. Let's say I switch the top color now to white. Alright, and I reduce the opacity of this to, let's say, 27, and I have the hardness at 0. I can now see that it's a very light color. That's because the opacity has reduced. If it's high, then it will be white but diffused. And if I increase the hardness completely, you'll see that it is coming as a stiff color like this. So that's basically what the size, hardness, as well as the opacity will let us do. We'll talk about the flow in a little while, but let's see how we can increase and decrease the size of the brush just from our keyboard. Now all of y'all, I want y'all to look at your keyboard, and you can see the backspace, right? Below the backspace you will notice that there are two brackets, rectangular brackets, and they come on the side, on the right hand side of the P letter. There are two rectangular brackets. We have the right rectangular bracket as well as the left. If I press the right rectangular bracket, the size of the brush will increase, and if I press the left rectangular bracket, the size of the brush will decrease as such. Alright, so we can easily control the size of the brush like that also. Now I'll switch this along and I'll select the black color and I'll reduce the flow. So you guys will now understand the flow. Basically, when I reduce the flow of the brush, guys, and I create a new layer, let me just press Ctrl D to deselect this, and when I drag, you can see how this is looking, right? It's looking like it's not a straight draw. It's like there is this very, very discrete break in every single drag that I am doing, right? So that's basically because the flow has been reduced. If I increase the flow, you'll have a more stiffer draw like this. So that's basically about it, guys, what is there in the brush tool. The erase tool, on the other hand, when I press E, or I can easily select the erase tool from here, is very similar to the brush tool. You can see it has the same kind of use over here. I can even increase and decrease it exactly in the same way. Except this will not let us brush, but it will let us erase. If I reduce the opacity, it will erase lightly like this. Alright, if I increase the opacity but I reduce the hardness, so it will erase in a diffused way like this. So this is basically how we will use our erase and our brush tool. Both are extremely similar except the use is different. One will actually apply color and one will erase off the color or the objects that have been created in that layer. And you can see that we are back to this particular one. Now for the last thing over here, guys, we are going to be using our text command, which is the T. You can directly press T or you can select the text. I would suggest that you go on it first, right click and make sure it's horizontal type text but not vertical, because vertical would be up and down and not horizontal. And then we have type masks, so we'll just talk about that later, but let's first talk about the horizontal type tool. In the horizontal type tool, when I click, I will be able to start typing, and you can see automatically there is a T over here and it's not a layer and gets created on its own, so we don't really need to create a new layer for the text. We can just use it and click to create a text over here where I can now start typing as such. The text color can be changed by changing the foreground color, by selecting it of course completely and then changing the foreground color, or by changing the color on top over here like this. Alright, we can also change the font from here. We can change the regular bold, italics, the style from here. The size can be changed from here. and so can the sharpness, the crisp and the smoothness from here. Now once we are done with this much, right, I'm just going to name this as, let's say, water body over here. I can now enter, but if I press enter, I will go on the next line. So what I will do is I will click on the move tool. That will set it, and I can just place that over here, water body. Now I can press alt and I can move this to copy this water body over here, and I'll just bring it up as such so that we can see it. And I can again press T, and now I want to change it, right? So when you press T or you select the type tool from here, and if you just make a click and start typing, it will automatically type. But if you bring it on an already written text, you can actually edit the text like this. Alright? And you can actually see the difference also. When I select the text tool, if I am typing a new thing, you can see that there is a small little box around my command, around my cursor command. And if I bring it on top of this, that box kind of disappears, as you guys can see. That's when we know that we can edit that particular text. And I can go ahead here and type building. You can again go and click over here to set it down as such. So this is basically how you will be using the text tool. Now the text tool, as I showed you guys, you can just click to start typing. But what if you want to only type within a particular area? Let's say only within this rectangle. So I will again press the left click and drag to create a box. So that now whatever I type over here, guys, is going to be typed only between the area which we have pre-selected. And if I want to just escape, I can press escape and it will disappear. So that's basically, guys, how you will be using the text tool and all the other tools, including the brush, the eraser, the marquee, lasso, and all of this, including copying, everything in one particular compilation. So I want you all to go ahead and complete this much off, and I will see you guys in the next topic. Take care.